Chef and Miller Janie Pendleton, and today we are going to be making what you requested, cream of celery soup. You can also make cream of chicken and cream of mushroom soup, and I'm going to bring both of those recipes to you shortly, but we're going to start with the cream of celery soup. I like to keep the soup on hand because it's great in my casseroles and things. So the first thing you're going to do with your jars is you're going to run your finger over the top just like that right there, and we're going to make sure there's no cracks or breaks. Make sure there's no food in here from the last time. You're going to wash your jars really well. A good antibacterial soap solution. My brand here I'm using is Ajax with bleach alternative. Wash this in as hot as water as your hands can stand. And you want to rinse the soap out of here really well. I can't reiterate on that enough. Make sure you rinse the soap out really well. Now here we've matched up the right size of lids, and we've washed them and rinsed them, and now we're just going to put those down inside of a pot of hot water. Now we're not going to do that just yet. We've got them sitting here kind of drying up a little bit, and you always want to put an extra top or two of either the wide or the smallmouth in there just in case something's wrong with one of these, or you accidentally notice you got a used lid. You never want to reuse a lid like this more than once. You can for vacuum sealing, and you can use these off your home canning jars for vacuum sealing, but you can't reuse a lid for canning, pressure or water bath canning, more than once, unless you have the Tattler lids. You want to take and inspect your unit. Make sure that your lock is on tight. Make sure when you clean your canner that you clean the lid all the way around. Blow through this piece. Make sure that that's clear and free, and it is. The lock's working. That's still good. This is your emergency blowout valve. Now we're going to take just a little bit of this extra virgin olive oil. You can use whatever you like. It takes just a little bit here on the finger, and we're just going to run this around here, just like I've been teaching you for years. After you can meats, or about every 6 to 8 times that you use your canner, you'll want to oil it with a little bit of olive oil or a little canola oil. Okay? And like I said, I just barely got any on there. Just make it kind of nice and shiny. You don't want it too oily. And you don't want to stretch this, but you do want to keep this in good condition. Okay, now we're just going to slip that back in here. See how easy that was to replace that? Then you can kind of see how it's a little bit shiny. I'll put a little bit here on the inside edges here, that's fine. I'll put a little bit here on this piece here, top and bottom, just what's left on my fingers. That kind of keeps it nice and hydrated. Rubber dries out just like any tire or anything else, so you gotta, especially in the steam. All right. And now at the locking side here, and the locking lip here, we're going to line up the arrows. And see how nice that slides now? We're just going to slide it a few times and get that olive oil on that lip there. There you go. That's nice. Right there. So everything is working. Everything's hydrated with the oil. And we're ready to rock and roll. Now inside here you have some lines right inside here, and this will tell you how much water to put in here. Whenever I'm canning meat, or I'm going for like over 75 minutes for pints or 90 minutes for quarts, when I'm canning meat or beans, or something that requires a longer canning temperature, I'll always put another, about another ½ inch of water in here. One reason is because we're going to steam this for 10 minutes with the lid on before we put our rocker on. Here's our rocker attachment. Okay, this is a 5-pound weight, this is a 10-pound weight right here. And if you're over a certain 1,000 feet above sea level, I know that I'm below 1,000 feet, so I just use the 10 pounds. But like Linda Vanderoff, she's like, I don't know, she's way up there in the altitude, so she uses 15 pounds a weight of pressure. Okay, so you want to check the ball canning guide and make sure that you check that map. There's a map online you can go to too, and I'll put that link right here. and that will show you your area and your weight and your pressure times. But for me, it's just 10 pounds of pressure. That's just the 2 weights. Or if you're gauged, it would be 11 pounds of pressure on the gauge. And you never want to let your rocker, you never want it to quit rocking, because if it just stands still for more than 10 to 15 seconds, like this, just standing still like that, maybe even up to a half minute, then you got to start your time over again. And it's fine, but you don't want over-processed food, especially if you've went almost 90 minutes and then that happens, then you got to start over. So just keep an eye on it, adjust your temperature up and down until you get a nice steady rocking motion. And whatever you do, don't leave the room when you're canning, okay? And try to keep pets and kids back away from your canner as well. All right, so that's the basics of how to set all your jars and everything up. You put a splash of vinegar in here, and I promise you, you'll have nice crystal clear jars when they come out. And that helps if you're canning meats and stuff, that also helps keep the fats and the oils off the meat off the jar. It makes them easier to clean the fats off. And you can see here how nice and crystal clear my jars are. This was without vinegar, this was with vinegar. I wanted to show you that just so you could see the difference. Now we're going to go ahead and take our clean jars that's been over in the drainer that we washed. We're checking them and looking them in the light one more time. We're going to dip that in, put a little water in them. Make sure there's no food or anything in there from last time. And we're just going to sit those down in there just like that right there. Ouch, that's hot. Come back. And you'll notice that I put the 1.5 pints in here along with the pints. That's fine. I'm just going to add that, we're going to treat these like quarts, and we're going to add the extra 10 minutes to the processing time. I'll just kind of lightly sit that up there. That's fine. We're just steaming these for 10 minutes, so it's fine if the lid doesn't go on. The reason why I put my water bath canner jar lifter in here is because when I take these out to put the soup, the cream of celery or the cream of mushroom soup in here, I want to be able to just lift my jars up, turn them upside down, and then take them over and fill them up. It makes it a lot easier, and then to carry them back over here to sit them filled back inside the jar. Now when I actually do the canning, I will not put this rack back in here again, because as you can see, it doesn't close down. I can't get my lid on. Okay? Just remember that splash of vinegar. Remember your pounds of pressure and your times. That's the most important part. And be sure and put your jars in upside down, because it's the steam that's actually sterilizing your jars. Now people have asked me, Jane, you know, you don't have to sterilize your jars when you're pressure canning. No, you don't have to, but the taste of dirt isn't very nice. And I believe the extra step of sterilizing before you pressure can or water bath can, or even dry can in the oven, you know, I teach you how to do all these things. I think that it's very important. I really do. At the hospital, they sterilize tools in a machine that does pressure and time. Steam, pressure, and time. So this is the same way we want to can. We're not doing anything with our food different than they do when they sterilize tools for surgery. What we're getting ready to can here today is cream of celery soup. And I got a really good deal on a really beautiful celery. I mean, you just need to cut off the tips. But you can even use the celery root. A lot of people don't know that you can eat celery root, but that's some of the best and most richest nutrients is the root of the celery. So we're going to use it all. And I just want to talk for just a minute about store-bought soups. Sometimes I will buy them if they're on sale. But like this one was up December 2014. We're already in February of 2015. This is still good. I'm still going to use it. But there's things in here that I can't even pronounce. Okay, so here are the list of things that we are going to need to make our cream of celery soup. Okay? This is my version of it. And the first thing I want to talk about is the arrowroot powder versus cornstarch. You can use cornstarch, but I try not to use corn in anything. Arrowroot powder, it holds up better in canning. And what I like about arrowroot powder is it doesn't have a flavor. It doesn't add a flavor to the food. And it's gluten-free, and that's going to help keep this gluten-free and corn-free as well. So I use the arrowroot powder. If you're using cornstarch, however, it would be 1 teaspoon of arrowroot powder versus 1.5 teaspoons of cornstarch for measurement, for replacement measurement. So I don't need as much arrowroot powder as I would need for cornstarch, okay? So arrowroot powder, and this is great for jellies and jams and things too. So this is really good. It holds up great during canning, and people want to know how I get such a creamy cream of mushroom and a cream of celery soup. This is my little secret ingredient right here. So if you can see that. It is from berryfarms.com. The next thing we're going to be putting in here is low sodium chicken broth. This is just great value. I have some home canned, but I'm just going to use up what I had in the cabinet. But I went ahead and bought some because this was low sodium, and I thought it had a good flavor to this last time I used it at Thanksgiving, so I'm going to use that. And then this beautiful vegetable broth that I made. Okay. I made this on 10/26/14, so it's just a couple months old. You remember me making that video? You can go here and get that video. And for my homemade vegetable broth, this was just the end of the garden broth. And that's how I get a nice, rich flavor to my soups as well. Unsalted real butter. Be sure and use real butter. Canning salt. Pepper. Extra virgin olive oil. This is an Italian version. It's called Dante. I think I'm saying that right, Dante. And I really like the flavor of this one. So use your favorite extra virgin olive oil. Use a higher grade, more expensive olive oil in this, please. You'll find a big taste difference in your soups. Some heavy whipping cream or half and half. And I have to be lactose free, so I'm actually going to go ahead and add a little bit of the lactose free whole milk to this. And this will make my heavy whipping cream lactose free. It will also thin it down just a little bit. It'll make it more of a half and half. Celery salt, which isn't necessary because there is a lot of salt in the celery. So if you want to not do that, that's fine. I just had a little bit left, and I was going to use that up. And of course, celery. This actual can of Campbell's cream of mushroom, a cream of celery soup, has beta carotene in it, which is carrots. So if you don't have beta carotene powder, then you can just add a few diced carrots in here. It's the same thing. But what did I do? I'm adding the vegetable broth, so that covers my beta carotene. My home dehydrated raw red onions, it has no preservatives, MSGs, or anything like that in it, because I'm allergic to those. Well, I'm not allergic, they give me severe migraines. I'm a migraine sufferer, so this is why I do a lot of this. And I've noticed that I have reduced my migraines by almost 75 to 80% by doing this. Sometimes when I eat out and some packaged food will have it in there, then I'll get my headache still. Also, my home dehydrated and powdered garlic. So onions and garlic. And you do not have to use powdered. You can use, you know, the regular onion or whatever, but I prefer the powdered for making it for home canning. All right, so these are our basic ingredients. Let me set them out here so you can see what's going to be actually in this. Those are our ingredients. And we're also going to need a blender. Some sort of emulsion blender, okay? Because we're going to actually cream up a lot of this. We're not going to let it be just really chunky celery. We're going to leave part of it out, and we're going to leave some of the celery out when we cook it for the chunky part of it, but the rest of it we're going to cream up. This is going to be a beautiful, beautiful celery soup. Trust me on this. You're not going to be disappointed. Okay? You're not going to be disappointed at all. And you don't have to can this. You can actually just make up a smaller batch of this and eat it. You put it in the refrigerator, to store in the refrigerator for about 6 days. So this is something that you could make for your work all week. If you're on a diet, this is a really good, well, it's got the heavy whipping cream in it, so you could just use milk instead of the heavy whipping cream, like a reduced milk, and you could add a little bit more arrowroot powder and thicken that up a little bit. Like I said, so you can adjust this recipe a little bit for your dietary needs, but this is the basics. I'm going to sharpen your knife. Wash your knife you've done that. And don't do that over where your food is. I'm just using a Clorox wipe. Wipe your board down really well before and after using it. Okay, you're going to need our blender. And I even wiped off the knobs on the front of the blender. So consider us clean and sterile now. I just get like some sort of a sack here and open it up, or a bowl, doesn't matter. And we're going to cut the tips off our celery. Those tips were pretty brown. I'm not even going to save those for stock. Get rid of anything that doesn't look good or healthy on here. You don't want to can up bad fruit or vegetables. Just look it over really, really well. And then we're going to take it over here to the sink, and we're just going to spread these apart, and we're going to wash them really well. We're using the celery root, so you can even separate these. Here's a bad spot of this. That out like that right there. Okay. My jars are now officially sterilized. Our time is up on those. Now, depending on the size of the chop that you want for your celery, I like mine chopped. I like them chopped pretty fine. I don't like the actual shape of the celery in my celery soup. So instead of just having something this size right here, okay, I like to have mine a little more chopped. Let's get you a couple here to show you how I like mine chopped. And putting some of the leaves in there, that's fine. And for my celery soup, this is the size that I like my celery, okay? About like that right there. And we ended up only doing 3 bunches of celery. So just 3 bunches of celery did the trick. Meanwhile, I've used some of the celery and some of my other cream of celery and cream of chicken soup, my home canned cream of chicken soup, to make this pot pie. Okay? Isn't that beautiful? I think it's more than done. There we go. Beautiful pot pie, and these can go in the freezer for up to 6 months to 8 months in the freezer, and they're fine. They're good to go. Let's keep that in there and turn off the oven. Let this cool on the stovetop for just a few minutes. And you can go right here, and I'll put that link up on how to make my homemade chicken and beef pot pies. Okay, that video I've already made. Okay, we're starting with a 16 quart stock pot. It doesn't have to be that big, but I'm making quite a bit. If you hear the bubbling, that's my jars coming back up to boil. I decided last night that it was too late to start canning all this, so I went ahead and got everything prepped for today. We're going to put in here 5 tablespoons of real butter. And remember, I just have this on a medium-low heat right now. Put in 4 tablespoons of olive oil. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. See, it's coming up nice and slow. Remember, olive oil doesn't take the higher temperatures that a vegetable oil takes. So you don't have to set that heat up so high. Now to this, and this is strong, I'm going to add my home canned onion powder. And this is strong stuff. Oh yeah, it's strong stuff. So there's 1 teaspoon, there's 2 teaspoons, and trust me, that is plenty. That is plenty. Ooh, that smells good. And I'm also going to do the same thing with my dehydrated garlic. Ooh, that smells strong as well. So I think I think just 1 teaspoon of that will be plenty. Like I said, that is some strong stuff. That smelled up my whole kitchen instantly. Okay. I'm also going to add my celery salt while I'm doing this part. Well, I don't hardly have anything left, so I'm just going to go ahead and just put it in here. That's about a half a teaspoon of celery salt. We're going to give about a teaspoon of salt and about a teaspoon of pepper. That's all you need for this. The reason why I'm putting the spices in first is I want to envelop those flavors into the butter and the olive oil. Okay? And we're just going to kind of let that bubble there for, oh, not very long at all. Let me get some of the spices here off the side of the thing there. There we go. While we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and add my parsley. About a tablespoon of parsley. Just gives it a little bit deeper, richer color when I go to blend this. And I bought an emulsion blender, and they forgot to put it in with my new mixer, with my new KitchenAid mixer. So, that I bought for my daughter's wedding, they forgot to put it. So I'm not a happy camper right now, but I'm going to look through it. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our celery, and we're just going to add the celery in gradually. Warming that up in there. There we go. Alright, I've got that nice and coated. I'm going to go ahead and add about a cup of water. There we go. I'm going to put the lid on this. I'm going to let that kind of simmer and kind of steam in there. Alright. I've let this simmer for about 5 minutes, and now I'm going to go ahead and add my home canned vegetable stock. That adds all that beta carotene and vitamin C and all those nutrients that I want to put in my soup. Add some nice coloring as well. Remember, my home canned cream of celery soup is a little darker in color, but that's fine. It's just rich in nutrients. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our chicken broth. And this is just the reduced sodium version. I have some canned up, but I didn't want to use it for this. And that's 10 cups of chicken broth. I'm not going to quite put in 10 cups. I think I'm going to put in more like about 8 to 9, because I added water to this to start with, and I put in that vegetable broth as well, so I don't think it's going to need quite that much. I'm going to see. Start stirring this so I can see. I want this to cream up and thicken up nicely. That's where my arrowroot powder is going to come in handy. Okay, so that just took the 3 boxes of soda. I'm not going to put in the 4th. It's got a nice rich color to it. What we're going to do is we're going to bring this back up to a simmer slowly on a medium heat. You don't want to go any higher than that. And we're going to simmer this for an additional 12 minutes. So we've got 5 minutes into it and another 12. That's about 17 to 18 minutes cooking the celery itself in the water, or in liquids total. Now you always want to keep a couple of clean spoons on hand here, because you don't want to double dip. And we're just going to go ahead while that's coming up to simmer, and we're going to go ahead and dip down in here, and we're going to take a sip of this. Has a nice healthy broth flavor, but I think it needs a little bit of salt since that was a low sodium, and this is canning salt that I'm using. That was about 2 teaspoons there. Remember, you put as much salt in here as you like. The celery itself, I can really taste that celery flavor. Another clean spoon. Let's try this again. It's almost there. Just a little bit more. So that was about 3 teaspoons of salt for about for about 7 quarts of soup. This heats up, the flavors of the salt will get stronger. We're gonna try that one more time. Make sure we got it. That's good. And remember, we're adding some more liquids to this in a minute. And the other issue that people have is canning milk. Well, what I have here is I have 3/4 of a cup of heavy whipping cream, and I have another 1/2 cup of my lactose-free milk that I added to the heavy whipping cream. And I poured some of that out here into another measuring cup here, maybe about 2/3 of a cup. And I'm adding 1/8 of a cup of arrowroot powder. Okay, and I'm just going to give this a stir so this is nice and smooth. And I may not need this whole amount here. We're going to see here in just a minute. And again, you can put this inside of the chicken broth or the vegetable broth instead if you want to omit the cream. But this is a cream of celery soup, and I'm going to go ahead and can it with the cream in it. I think it does just fine. I don't have any problems canning dairy products. I think that's just the USDA, but that's just my opinion. I'm not really supposed to say that since I'm a certified canner, but I don't really care. I'm going to say it. I've canned a lot of dairy products and I've not had a problem, and neither has anybody else that I've talked to, so. Give that one more taste here with another clean spoon. And that's good. It's a little on the salty side, but that's good because I'm adding the creams. So that will measure out nice and evenly. Okay. So we just have this really, really nice foamy, it's kind of a foamy consistency to it. It will do that in your broth as well. It'll foam up like that a bit. All right, let's get this temperature up here. Okay. We're going to finish boiling this for the other, about another 10 minutes to go. And then we're going to run some of this through the blender. Now be careful when you're using the blender. You want to be sure and put a rag on top of the blender lid and hold that down, and only fill the blender up about halfway. 2/3 to halfway up, because this will cause the top of your blender to blow off from the heat and the steam when you hit that button. So what you want to do is you just want to hit that pulse button on your blender. Just pulse it very slowly. Release the steam and air once in a while, but keep a nice thick rag on top or a pot holder on top and really hold that down. You don't want to blow this stuff all over your kitchen. You know, whenever you're blending hot boiling foods, you got to be sure and hold that lid on tight on your blender. And I'll show that to you here in just a minute. Okay, like I said, there's 2 ways that you can do this. You can pour half the mixture that we just made and make it creamy. Leave some of it chunky, some of it creamy, and that's what I like to do. I like to make it creamy. So fill your blender about half to 2/3 of the way, put the lid on, cover it with a towel, just like that right there. Hold it down and pulse your blender. Calms down, release the steam, give it a stir what you need, and pulse it again. Just like that. But we're not doing it that way. Why? Because I'm using this here emulsion blender. And guess what? Remember a few seconds ago when I said it hadn't came in the mail yet? Well, guess who knocked on the door right when I said that? I turned off the camera and here was my emulsion blender. So I've got it all washed up and cleaned up, and it's all ready. I've read the directions on it and it's all ready to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that, so it's 1 3/4 cups of heavy whipping cream and 3/4 of a cup, about a half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of my lactose-free milk. Because I'm making this lactose-free, that's why. Blend in there. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up to a simmer. Give this one a really good stir here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my thickener. And when I do this, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reach in here and I'm going to grab some of that hot liquid in here. Give that a stir, let some of it fall into the pot. Make sure I'm filming here. Yeah, I am, so you can see this. Grab a little bit more, give it a stir, pour that into the pot. There you go. Let's give that a stir here. Let's simmer that up about a minute. And let's see how thick that's going to be. And again, when I said in canning, the density is the problem. So you don't want to get this too thick. This will thicken, this arrowroot powder will thicken upon standing. So this will make it through the canning process. So we don't want to get this too thick. I'll show you the consistency here in just a minute. Okay, so that wasn't enough, so we made up another batch. And again, we're just going to kind of clean that out just like that. And give that a quick stir. Clean spoon here. Let's give this a try and see what we think. That's really good. That's good. It needs something, however. What does it need? A little bit more garlic powder. Maybe even a little bit more onion powder. Oh, there you go. I can smell that. Oh, that smells good. There you go. Let those flavors meld in together. Thickness. You know, you can leave it at this thickness if you're just planning on eating it straight up. But I'm going to use this for cooking. Let's see. I think I want this a little thicker. Lumps. Thickness is the issue here with any kind of flour, so make sure you blend it really, really well. So here we go. We're going to do it one last time here, and I should have it. Let's see how that goes. Oh, there you go. Nice. All right, so I had to do that 3 times for... We're at almost 8 quarts of soup now, and I had to do that 3 times. So, and I just mixed it with my gluten-free, or excuse me, with my lactose-free milk. Okay, that's perfect. I can really feel that now. Wow, perfect. Okay. Okay, now I'm just plugging in my. Go ahead and turn this off. I believe that it was ready. Like I said, this is going to thicken up upon standing. The celery's nice and done. It's got some nice coloring to it. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and use my emulsifying blender here, and I'm going to cream some of this up. I want some chunks, but I also want it a little creamy too. So I'm going to stick this on medium to medium high, and I'm just going to put it, make sure you immerse it. Look at that. Some chunks in here, yet it's still really creamy as well. That's exactly what I wanted. I might went a little bit too long with it, but it's going to be perfect for when I make, especially if you've got somebody in the house that won't eat celery, then just cream it up a little bit more. It's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ladle up a bowl of this and let my husband have a go at it. Look at that. Doesn't that look delicious? The crackers on there. Look at that. Perfect. And like I said, that will thicken up upon standing. So that's that's the way you want it for actual canning it. Or for eating it. I think it's perfect. I'm going to dish me out a little bit as well so we can have some for supper. That is so good. Oh my goodness. Now, like I said, I blended this a little bit more than I probably should have. But I wanted to make sure that this canned up. And you can make this, like I said, a lot thicker if you want to. That's fine. But this is how we like it. Dip your ladle in deep so you can get lots and lots of chunks of celery in with this. And we want to go to about about a 1/2 inch headspace. Making sure all your equipment that you're using is sterilized. Make sure the jars are nice and sterile, and I do sterilize my jars even if I'm pressure canning. I do not want to risk this. And you want hot jars whenever you're putting hot liquids into the jar, or hot produce. Now I can celery. A lot of people will just freeze it. They say that they think that it goes to mush when they can it. I've never had a problem with my canned celery. I think it's great in soups and stoops and things. So I don't mind having canned celery at all. I love celery, so if you remember that video where I grew my own celery last year, that was the first time I had grown celery in many, many years. And quite frankly, it was delicious. It was in a new garden plot though, so it didn't get as big as I would like to have seen it, but I grew 25 plants. I had 25 heads of bunches of celery out there. Got that one a little bit too full. Remember, you don't want to fill up more jars than what the canner's going to take at a time, because you don't want those lids to seal down. Oops. Again, put in too much. I gotta quit doing that. I keep thinking I'm doing the taller jars. Alright. I'll probably pour some of that other one in there. I got a couple of quarts left, but not enough to do another round in the canner, so I'll probably freeze some of that up. Oh my. Don't want to put too much in here or it will just overflow, and that's not a good thing. I could keep it from sealing, and I don't want that to happen. So now I'm going to take here, and we're just going to debubble here real quick. I know it's soup, and you might not have to do that, but I'm doing it. And like I said, you could put in another thing of the arrowroot powder or cornstarch, and you could make this thicker. That's fine. We're gonna clean off our edges. The outside will wash off in the canner. Make sure you're using the sterile water. I'm just using the water from my lids here. You can use a little bit of vinegar. If it's got grease or oils or butters in it, use a little bit of vinegar. That's fine too. Make sure you're using the sterile water. I'm just using the water from my lids here. You can use a little bit of vinegar. If it's got grease or oils or butters in it, use a little bit of vinegar. That's fine too. This is new territory, because you see what I put in here. I put in the arrowroot powder, and there's not a lot about canning about arrowroot powder. I can tell you it works better than cornstarch. It doesn't leave that taste, and it's just a nice thickener, and it stays thickened after you can it and it cools again. All right, now I've got this all wiped off. And now I'm just going to, and yes, I line up my words on my lids. I do that. These are clean as well. There we go. And remember, finger tighten, just like that right there. All right, carry that over and put this in the canner. Sometimes I'll take, you see me where I just take a little bit of water and I'll go around the rim just like that right there. Just to make sure there's no cracks or breaks in the jar. Finger tighten. This is so much better than that canned stuff. And look at that, isn't that beautiful? This is my recipe that I made up for canning this. So do this at your own risk, okay? This is not in the Blue Book Guide to can the that did it, but I've been doing this a long time and I pretty much know what I can and cannot can. And you can cream of celery, cream of chicken, cream of mushroom soup. Just be sure and use those times that you know what? That had a little something. Looks like okay, that's fine. Thought it had something on there still. Okay. Okay, you know the routine, but I'm going to go over it for those who haven't seen one of my videos before or they don't know that much about canning. So if you know a lot about canning, then bypass this. But for those who don't, okay, so we're going to crank our heat up here to almost high, just a hair under high. We're going to check our lock mechanism. Everything's okay. We're going to blow through our pipe. There we go. Check our blowout, everything's fine. We put a little bit of olive oil the other day on our seal and you can still feel it around on here. It feels good and that keeps that seal nice and it'll keep your seal a lot longer, especially after you've done a couple of 90-minute meat cannings and stuff like that. You want to put a little bit of olive oil or a little canola oil or something on your seal. All right, so we know that that's clear. We've got our heat up. We put our splash of vinegar inside here to clean the jars up. And I just want to show this to you one more time. This is that cream of celery soup. Isn't that beautiful? And again, you can leave the larger pieces of celery in there, and I know that would be prettier, but this is how we like it. This is how we like to eat it. Okay, we got our vinegar in there. Put the lid on. That locked nicely. Okay. And I'm just going to explain this to you really quickly. What we're going to do here is we're going to bring the heat up. We're going to let this steam. I should be able to hold my hand about 5 or 6 inches. That steam should really be feeling it right here in the palm of your hand. So without burning yourself, about 6-7 inches from the vent pipe here, you should be able to hold your hand right here and feel that steam. When you can see it and feel that column of steam coming out, you want to set your timer for 10 minutes. Keep it on, you know, almost high, but get that going for 10 minutes. When your 10 minutes are up, and this little thing right here will pop up, and I'll show that to you in just a minute. The lock will pop up. Put that on. This is a 10-pound weight right here. This is a 5-pound. This is a 10-pound. If you live below 1,000 feet altitude, then you'll use 10 pounds of pressure. If you live above, I think it's 1,000 to 1,500, then you'll use another one of these discs, and that's 15 pounds of pressure. Again, go over to your ball canning guidebook and find out your map zone, your pressure, or you can call your local extension service and they'll tell you what your local altitude is, and they'll tell you your pounds of pressure. If you're on a gauged weight, this would be 11 pounds if you're on a dial gauge. But this is a 10-pound weight, so 10 pounds of pressure. And these are pints, but remember I put in the pint and a halves. Now the pint and a halves we treat like quarts because there's no times for the pint and a halves. So I'm going to say this again. So we're going to treat these like quarts. So instead of going 35 minutes in the canner for pints, we're going to put that time at 45 minutes in the canner because we're going to treat these like quarts. It might overprocess it a little bit, but it's celery soup. It will be fine. All right, and again, this is one of my recipes. This is not a certified recipe from Ball or anybody else. This is my recipe for canning cream of celery soup. So you'll want to do this at your own risk because I am canning milk products, and there's arrowroot in here, which is fine for canning the arrowroot. But a lot of people have an issue with canning dairy, and it's not USDA and the FDA. They don't approve canning dairy, but we know what I think of that. So we'll see you back here in about an hour. Okay, our pin is dropped, and we just slid this open just like this right here. Be sure and take off your weight. Slide this open. Make sure this pin has dropped. Before you do anything, you'll hear this drop. Okay, be sure and open this lid away from you and kind of use this to protect your face, just like that right there. Still pretty hot in here. I thought one of these broke. That would have been my first time one had ever broken, but it looks like it's fine in there. That's must have just been one of the jars kind of jingling up against the other one. So I kind of open this up. We're going to kind of leave it like this for just maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll be right back. The heat is on. It's in the middle of winter, but the temperature out here is probably still at about 67, 68 degrees right now, even with all this canning and cooking I've been doing today. So I'm a little chilled, so I know it's chilly in the room. So you never want to sit your jars in a draft, and you never want to bring them out if it's way too cold in the room in the middle of the winter or with the air conditioner on. So we're just going to let them sit in their happy little bath area right here. Remember to open this up away from your face. See all that steam? This protects you and your face. So everything looks really good. And we'll be back in just a minute. Little puppy's got her toy. Okay, we've waited a few minutes here. I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Everything looks happy in this happy little bath here. There we have them. Do a little bit of separating here. That's just the vegetable, or the vegetables and the spices and things. And when this is done, we'll sit there and we'll give that a good shake when they start to warm up. When they're just almost room temperature, we'll give these a really good shake, and that will cream things up. See, they all kind of did that a little bit, but that's perfectly normal. That's all that parsley and all the spices and the onions and everything that we put in there. See, they all kind of did that a little bit. Oop, they're already popping. You hear that one? See, they all did that. No harm, no foul. Said, we'll give these all a really good shake when they're about room temperature, almost room temperature. Looks good though. Wasn't done popping. It worked. I've got a little bit of that. Okay. It's just and what we'll do here is we'll let these sit here and rest then until tomorrow, and we will see you back here then. Woo, another one. They're really a popping in here. All right, looks good. They're still bubbling a little bit, and like I said, there's some little bit of sediment right in here, but see how that kind of whipped up? Man, they're just a popping as soon as I'm touching them. Alright, this is Chef and Builder Janie Pendleton with my cream of celery soup, and we'll see you back here tomorrow when we are going to label these and date these. And there's another one. They're going to town. It's because it's so chilled in here. Okay, and here is my cream of celery soup the next day, and we gave it 3 shakes total. We shook it up when it was about room temperature last night, right before we went to bed. It was about room temperature. And then had still separated a little bit this morning, so I shook it again around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock this morning, just before lunchtime. And now it's about 6 o'clock in the evening, and I gave it one more shake, and then I wrote the cream of celery and the date here, if you can see it without it reflecting in the light. Cream of celery and the date that I canned it. And you'll notice that this isn't real thick. I mean, it didn't thicken up a whole lot, so I probably could have put a little bit more arrowroot powder in it, but I had switched from cornstarch to arrowroot powder. So because it said on the directions that it doesn't take as much arrowroot powder as it does cornstarch. And the nice thing about arrowroot powder is it doesn't, of course, have GMO corns in it, and plus it doesn't have that taste. That arrowroot doesn't taste like anything. Sometimes we put in a lot of cornstarch in something. Also, it'll taste like corn. And also, cornstarch can lose its thickening power over a period of time. I've seen it happen in like pie fillings and things like that. So it kept the same thickness. It might have gotten a little thicker than what it was, but you could definitely